Welcome in to the Four Verticals Podcast, episode 117. I have to remind myself on that, but yeah, 117 for August 7th, 2025, here at High Top, a somewhat drenched Jacksonville, Florida. Bit of an interesting weather day. Had storms and rain in the morning, and now it's kind of a mostly, partly cloudy to mostly cloudy skies, a little bit cooler than it has in the past couple of weeks. So it's been pretty nice up there. But yeah, I got a lot of things to talk about. Camp Intel as usual in this time of the year. It's really crazy. The camp stuff. Team record projections continue with Baylor. Got a other topic I wanted to touch on. I wanted to touch on this a little bit earlier in the month, or actually back last month. I didn't have a chance to do it. But it's something to do with teams that could quit mid-season. Just something I want to put out there. Just something to think about. Got some Buccaneers camp intel. We got some Q&A as well. So a lot of things to talk about for the show. Of course, the big one being camp intel. A lot of things to discuss. Got Florida State on deck. Bama, Georgia. Of course, we have our team record projections and whatnot. Before we get started, again, make sure subscribe to the channel. That is very important. Some of the things I kind of preach is that we are a independent show, independent media. I've never talked to an advertiser before, at least at the moment. And we're not affiliated with any network or anything. It's just us. Of course, we are on YouTube twice a week, Thursdays and Tuesdays, around like 1:30ish in the afternoon Eastern time, so it'll be 12:30 Central. And we also are on Spotify as well, audio version when audio is available. I know last week we didn't have audio on the Tuesday show, I believe, for some reason, but it's fine now. But we do most of our shows on YouTube and Spotify. So be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, podcast feed, and to also go over to to Twitter, X. We are active. We are fairly active over there as well. So just make sure to do that. Keeps the show free. Again, this is independent media. Never spoken to an advertiser before, and we are also not tied to a network necessarily, a major network at the moment. So this show's for the fans, right? I mean, that's our pledge, I guess. Our slogan. Not really a slogan, but our pledge. So I was going to get started here with, go back to my notes here, Camp Intel. Yeah, so a lot of camps are starting. Week 0 is going to be soon, very soon, in in about 2 weeks or so. But technically, of course, the college ball season for most people, and that's including me, doesn't really start until 12 o'clock on Saturday before, like, the Saturday of Labor Day weekend, right? But we all know week 0 is approaching. We have games during the week. During the week before first Saturday official. But I got some camp intel. A lot of things, which we did Auburn, Ohio State, and Oklahoma Tuesday. We got 3 more teams today. We'll kind of be doing this sporadically until, I guess, week 0 kicks off. First up is Florida State. Now, my story with Florida State is a little bit interesting because, as you noticed on Twitter, if you're following, yes, I literally live down the road, literally, from where they're practicing at UNF, at the little field there. I was over there yesterday, kind of got to see the players arriving, got to see some of them. Of course, I don't know exactly who they were because they have their jerseys on. They were just in normal non-uniforms, so didn't know exactly who they were, but they were the players. Got to see some of the coaches, got to see where they were staying, which is the old freshman dorms. Of course, UNF is my alma mater, if you didn't know that. So it's pretty cool to see all that behind-the-scenes stuff. Of course, the field has been ready for a little bit. Of course, the logo's on there now. The Chief Osceola's face is on the field now. So I was there yesterday, so I've seen what was going on. I didn't get to actually see practice, but I got to see the beginnings of it this morning when I went for my run a little bit earlier, around 8 o'clock, actually, to be exact. I don't know why you need to know that, but that's someone's trying to call me. I don't know who's calling me. Of course, they should know I'm doing a show, but it's actually not someone I know, but it was one of those 800 numbers. But yeah, what I was saying, so Florida State practicing. So yes, I got to see the beginnings of practice a little bit, but not really. Sort of them setting up. Some of the players are, I think, walking over when I was heading back. So I'll try to go a little bit later-ish tomorrow to actually see practice going on, at least the beginnings of it. But yeah, I mean, it is really interesting, though, seeing these teams when they practice. And of course, since Mike Norvell's been there, been at Florida State, we've, I guess us here in Jacksonville, in the area where I live, had the privilege to actually see them practicing here, which makes sense. And then I think the reason why he's been doing this, why he's sort of gone this route, they started a couple years ago, is that sort of give these guys, especially now the transfer portal and whatnot, sort of getting time for these guys to bond and, put them in different situations that are not necessarily not necessarily in their control. So like having different sleeping accommodations at a different field. There's no shade, and I know that because I live up here. And it gives them the chance to sort of grow and build some character. And I think that's an interesting tactic. And for other reasons as well, why they come here and whatnot. But in terms of the actual football stuff, enough of my personal experience, I guess. Who steps up on offense is a question I have, right? You have the transfers. You have Deuce Robinson, who has been a focal point for them. Certainly the best receiver they have on the team. You also have Squirrel White, who, give or take from what you hear from different people, I think the story on him is, well, Tennessee didn't really shed a tear losing him. It's kind of like, whatever, we can lose you. We weren't really going to pay you, so whatever, bye. He's still there. Of course, he was injured last year. But I just wonder, besides Deuce Robinson, especially a receiver, I think that's what's more interesting to see who steps up. Running backs, we'll see with Malzahn offense. It's more of a running back by committee, usually towards the beginning of the year, and then they usually establish someone later in the year, like around week 5 and beyond. Then there was also Tommy Castellanos. Of course, the reason why they brought him in the portal, if you haven't noticed, or if you didn't know, yes, that's the same quarterback who was at Boston College last year, who beat Florida State, Mike Norvell, week 1 Monday night on a Labor Day night. But the reason why they brought Castellanos in, there's been a lot of things about Castellanos out there in the media and the industry. A lot of folks aren't necessarily happy about his comments about, I'm going to try to make it to the NFL. No, buddy, you're not probably going to make it. The reason why they brought you in is to have your legs be the focal point of your skill set, right? That's the best thing you're good at, which is your legs. It's not a bad thing. I'm not bashing the kid. It's just that's what you're good at. You're a running quarterback. You're a pure runner. You're not going to throw for 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. That's not going to happen. If it does happen, then that'll be one of the weirder things I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of weird things in college football. That'll be one of them. So that's not going to happen. So a lot of the conjecture about him, the Bama comments, which I didn't, like I said at the time, didn't bother me. As long as you can back it up on the field, I don't care. But like the NFL stuff, like whatever, I can care less about that. It's a little annoying, but interesting to see who steps up there. Receiver, I think running back room, we'll see. Offensive line, same thing, we'll see. Defensively, though, I have a little bit more concern, I guess, in some ways. I mean, the Tony White, I respect him as a defensive coordinator. Very good. And I thought that was actually the better of the pickups between the two coordinator hires. I thought Tony White a bit more polished as a DC. I think a lot of folks are more excited about that. But just the fact is, though, the talent there at Florida State, well, it's not terrible, but just, I don't know, man. It's just a lot of mystery there with Florida State. Very much so in the ACC. If there's a mystery team, it's definitely them, because you just don't know, right? I mean, quarterback, he's going to run the football a lot. If you can stay healthy, and that's the thing, too. Look, at Florida State, they lose Castellanos, and have to go rely on these backup guys. It's a massive drop-off to where if they have to start the backups for a major part of the season, that team's probably like a 3-win, 2-win team again. And I don't think anyone there would hope that's going to happen. I think the incentive is to keep Castellanos healthy, but unfortunately, you're going to have to run him a lot, because that's a skill set. That's the best. That's the thing he's good at. So at Bama, emphasis on the ground game. That's important, right? Last year, they were atrocious around the football. That's not what Kalen DeBoer is. I've told you guys this before ad nauseum. It feels like that. Kalen DeBoer and his offense is not what you think it is. It's not the the Mike Leach air raid stuff. It's not like Lincoln Riley's offense. It's more kind of like what Josh Heupel, like the Baylor Bryles stuff, the veer and shoot stuff. It's more of an emphasis on running the football. And I think that if you go watch Kalen DeBoer's offense at Washington, Fresno State, even in Indiana back in like 2018, 2019. They run the football, and that's their emphasis, is to run the football, and they didn't do it last year. They have good players. Jam Miller is probably going to be your starter tailback. He should be the focal point of the team. I think the offensive line should be a lot better. You have Caden Proctor, who is quickly is sort of quickly becoming one of the best offensive linemen in football, and will definitely be a high commodity come draft time. But Defense, I'm hearing a lot of good stuff about them. Corners and safeties just appear to be the focal point of the team. Looks like they should be a lot better there. A lot of those younger guys are a little, year older, wiser. QB situation is interesting here, right? You have Ty Simpson, Keelan Russell, you have Austin Mack. My personal opinion, taking it here from me, I think it is Ty Simpson. Though, like I said before in the game preview, could Keelan Russell randomly come in at some points during games? Yeah, he could, especially in the red zone if they feel like he can bring a different dynamic, especially in the bigger games like the Florida State game, the Wisconsin game early on, the Georgia game especially. Well, I guess not especially, but maybe. But yeah, I think you'll see Keelan Russell. Will you see Austin Mack? Not really. I don't think he's going to start. But look, either way, whether it's Austin Mack, Keelan Russell, Ty Simpson, you have Ron Williams, you have Jeremy Bernard, all these other cast of characters at the right receiver position. They should be fine. Quarterback, regardless, I think they should be okay there. So I'm hearing a lot of good things from Bama. Again, it's emphasizing the run game, man. I think that's why they bring in Ryan Grubb, is to do that, right? Again, last year, it's not. I know a lot of folks will say, "Well, there's limitations at quarterback." Well, I don't know is that. I mean, you have Milroe. He ran the ball a lot, and that's just, talking about having a quarterback using his skill set. That's Milroe's skill set, right? Running the football. At least in college it was. NFL, we'll see. But man, it's just they just need to emphasize it. And I think they sort of went away from that last year. And I think in some reason as to why they had to is because, well, I guess you can say quarterback, but I think other parts of it were they're just behind in a lot of these games, right? The Tennessee game, the Oklahoma game, in some ways the South Carolina game, they're behind. So they just had to rely on throwing the football, and it just wasn't always there last year to a certain extent. The Vanderbilt game, same thing. They were just always behind, and it felt like to me they just kind of went away from it because they had to play catch up in a lot of those games. And I think this year, I don't expect that to be the case. I think Ryan Grubb being there, I think it will reinforce run the ball. Again, I'm not expecting it to be like joyless murder ball, Saban style smash around football. No, I'm not expecting that. I think that era is sort of coming past, but that doesn't mean you can't run the football still. And I think they will emphasize doing so. And they need to do it early, right? Speaking of Florida State, Mike Norvell, if he was here right in front of me, if he was able to go over to UNF's campus and go talk to him, I'll just, bluntly say to him, look, Bama's going to emphasize running the football early on you guys because, this is their Super Bowl. And he'll probably agree with me on that. But, yeah, I think for Bama, you got to emphasize, running the football. You need to do it early, right? Because you have Florida State on the road. Wisconsin comes to town. Yes, Wisconsin's probably going to be a team on quit watch at some point during the season, whatnot. But still, that's early in the year, have momentum, whatnot. And I think it's going to be interesting to have Bama set the tone early, sort of set the wall, if you will, and emphasize that they need to run the football and need to make a statement saying, hey, look, just because, last year was last year doesn't mean it's always be the case. And we are going to emphasize running the football. I think that's very important. At Georgia, a lot of questions, whether it's receivers, and I think that's certainly a good start. They have receiver rotation conversations, if you will. It's a lot of that's not that I don't trust Georgia's receivers, though. It is interesting because you have Arian Smith, Colby Young, Dominic Lovett, Oscar Delpa, tight end. It's just I need some of those guys to step up. I think that is interesting to think about. Who out of all those guys are going to really step up, and I think a tight end, Oscar Delp, could be the best out of all of those. I think he showed flashes last year. We'll see. Running back room, it's I don't know, man. They just need someone to step up there. I don't know. I don't care who it is. I know they've been working on trying to get depth in that room back to where it could be, but again, with the portal, it's a little bit different than it has been in past years. We'll see. I mean, it's unlike Bama, who I think they have an established starter. Georgia, I'm not really sure. I mean, they have guys there. We just need to know who's going to step up and who can sort of take control of that position group. Then there's quarterbacks, right? Everyone's talking about, Johnner Stockton or Ryan Puglisi. Kind of the same thing with Bama. I really don't care. Gunnar Stockton, he's going to be your veteran guy. I think there will be some leadway. And I know a lot of folks will, hark at Stockton being, he's, just another boring quarterback. Well, I will give Kirby some credit here over the years. He has usually gone with the veteran guy, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? If you have someone like Gunnar Stockton or Jake Fromm or Stetson Bennett, and then last year with what happened last year, the last couple of years of Beck, he's going to go the veteran guy because he's going to go with the person that knows the offense a lot better than some of these other guys. Look, against Ryan Puglisi, I mean, Josh Pate a couple of years ago was touting Puglisi better than Dylan Raiola to a certain extent. I know a lot of folks forget about that, and I'm sure JP would make you think he didn't say that, but he kind of did. And I think Puglisi's good. From what I've seen of highlights and whatnot from high school, he hasn't played a lot. So whether it's him, it doesn't seem that likely. I think we'll be under Stockton at QB. But I know I've just seen a lot of folks sort of talking about, whether it's, Stockton or Puglisi, who should be the starter. Kirby Smart's going to make the decision. He's going to make the decision. He will be the decision maker. And I think he'll often make the right decision for what he thinks is necessary and what's going to be somewhat appropriate for them, right? If it's Gunnar Stockton, it's Puglisi. If he thinks Puglisi gives them a chance to win, maybe we're upside athletically, whether it's Stockton with the experience. And I think he will make a decision. It's going to be the decision he believes will be appropriate to be made. I'm not going to knock him for that, whatever he makes. If he thinks Puglisi should be the starter, then so be it. If he thinks it should be someone else or still be Gunnar Stockton, then that's his call. And, I'm not a football coach. I don't get paid money to make those calls. And the same even with the Buccaneers. We'll talk about it later. Whoever Todd Bowles makes whatever decision Todd Bowles makes, it's his decision. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know better than he does. I mean, he's been coaching football as long as anyone has. So some camp thoughts. And again, the same thing I've been saying before. These camp reports, scrimmage stuff. And we got some scrimmage stuff too from Florida State. It kind of was what it was, but it's a bit of a sweet and sour experience there on Tuesday night before they came over here to Jacksonville. But it's just take these for what they were, for what they're worth. Think of them like movie previews for movies that will eventually come out, like trailers and whatnot. Like I said before on Tuesday, look, and you can get good trailers for bad movies, and you can get bad trailers and previews for good movies. I think for a lot of these practice sports, just use that analogy. I think that'll be a reasonable analogy that what you're hearing may sound good, but also could be bad. And what you're hearing is bad, could be good, right? You never know. Again, I'm not at these practices. I guess technically I've been observing, quote unquote, the Florida State, I guess, but not really. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow I'll be able to see a little bit more when I go out tomorrow. And look, I've done it before. I will just say that I've done it before. Where I've kind of snuck in a little bit and got to see some stuff going on, but don't know if the folks over there in Tallahassee would appreciate that. I'm not part of the media technically, but whatever. But yeah, if you go on Twitter, I did post a picture of the field and, acknowledged Tony White. Speaking of Tony White, staying at the UNF dorms there, albeit it's not a traditional dorm room setting, but, hey, welcome to UNF, Tony White and company. But yeah, I got to see a little bit of Florida State stuff today. Hopefully I'll see more tomorrow. Because I believe they're here. They got here yesterday, obviously, and then they're here today, of course, and they'll be here tomorrow. I think they leave Saturday morning early, so they'll be here tomorrow, so I'll get to see them a little bit. And I'll let you guys know what I see if there's anything meaningful. But I'm gonna get some water, and of course, if those of you who are new here, again, welcome to the show. We do this show Tuesdays and Thursdays around this time in the afternoon on the East Coast Central Time. You can figure it out. We do college football, Marvel, Star Wars news when it's available, and there's some Star Wars news. We'll probably save that to Tuesday. Some casting news, but Marvel, Star Wars stuff, and then Tampa Bay Buccaneers stuff usually towards the end. And of course, we have a lot of things to talk about with Tampa coming up soon with the first preseason games or not. I will react to those accordingly. We'll get some water real quick, and we'll move on to the team record projections. Baylor's up next, if you've forgotten already. We'll say this stuff. I feel pretty good about the show today. We have a good clip going on. And I guess while we're here, I guess we may as well kind of give you guys an update on what's going on with the Tropics. And I guess here, of course, we're here in Jacksonville, and we are in hurricane territory. Kind of no real changes, uh, with Dexter being off the board. Just not a whole lot going on right now. We have a couple areas that NHC is watching. That's I know everyone's spewing the GFS and the model runs and what happened last night. Look, you're not going to hear that stuff from me, or at least, well, not here, but I'm not going to share that stuff online. Other folks will, and then that's fine. But I will only share things that are official, whether it's a meteorologist here in Jax, Lowe's Turner and Company there at First Coast News or whatever, or from NHC, right? It's anything official, and anything you're seeing on the models and whatnot. It's the models. They're going to do what they're going to do, and you can laugh at it and you can say, that's cool. But no, anything that the models are showing 300 hours plus out, getting close around to 400 hours, it's not guaranteeing anything. And anyone who actually believes that, you're just wrong. It's the models are the models. And look, could something happen with not the current wave that is like at 60%, like the website right now. It's the other wave that is behind it that will eventually move out, and I'm sure by Saturday Sunday we'll probably have a earlier area circled. Could that develop, right? Could it meander over towards the Caribbean and the Gulf? It could. I mean, it's not a guarantee, but it could, and we're watching it, and I'll be watching it, of course, living in an area that's prone to hurricanes and whatnot. So just relax. It's okay. As Mike Boylan said earlier on his Mike's favorite page on YouTube said earlier, no need to cancel anything. It's okay. You relax. It's fine. You have a long time to look and watch and observe, so we'll be okay. But yeah, today, speaking of Florida State practice, we had a landing delay. It was when I got back from running, and that was a little bit after I got back. Raining. These are morning storms. It can happen sometimes here in Florida. We usually get in the afternoon, but because of that area of low pressure that's off the East Coast, that can happen sometimes. Early morning storms, not impossible to get. So I'm sure we'll be getting that. I think for the rest of the week, actually, like tomorrow and Saturday, Sunday, early morning storms. How about that? So yeah, been an interesting change in the weather pattern. But anyway, speaking of changes, Baylor. How about that? We haven't talked about Baylor in a little bit. I don't think we've done their season preview. Yeah, I don't think. We talked about Auburn, though. Excuse me, a little burp there. I don't think we talked about Baylor, I don't think. I'm going to double check on our document here. No, we have not. So, okay, just double checking, make sure we haven't. All right, good. Kind of weird. Part of me thinks we have talked about them, but maybe we didn't. Because this looks awfully familiar. But anyway, look, if it's a repeat, then whatever, I guess. Maybe I just didn't put it on the list. I'm pretty sure we have not, but whatever. But yeah, Baylor, Dave Aranda, he's, been around for 6 years now. Last year, saving his job a little bit. You bring in Jake Spavital. Offense played a lot better than it had in the past. You sort of get that influx. Transfer portal kind of sneaky. Kobe Prentice from Bama transfers in. Got some decent depth there at receiver now. You add in the Cole Wilson from Texas State. You have other depth pieces that are, not necessarily going to be starters, I don't think, but will be contributors no less. Lost, not really that meaningful players. You lose DeQuan Finn, who was your starter, I believe, last year. He's back in the MAC now, which is really weird. Of course, you have Dave Aranda there. This staff, by the way, for Baylor, again, is very underrated, I think. I think Aranda, and look, you can think of him last year. I know there was the hot seat talk and whatnot. And look, I will sort of circled back what I said last year, I think. I'm pretty sure I said this. Look, if Aranda doesn't pan out as a head coach, so be it. He'll land somewhere as a DC probably. But I think for Aranda, and I think of him, the difference between like him and like a Zach Arnett or a Will Muschamp type is that he actually respects offense. I think Spavital, to external extent, is a good offensive corner. He's okay. If you don't remember, he was at Texas A&M under Kevin Stillman for a number of years. He's kind of bounced around a little bit. I think he was at, ironically, Texas State as a head coach. So he's been around for a while, and he's not a bad coordinator. Of course, they bring back Sawyer Robinson, who I think is the best quarterback in the Big 12, I think. Or at least one of them, Avery Johnson and Rocco Beck has something to say about that. But I think Sawyer Robinson, after last year, I mean, that kid can play. I mean, he is, speaking of that Auburn Baylor game early in the year, which of course we'll do a natural breakdown on that as it gets closer. Which, by the way, Baylor is not the favorite. By the way, I told you guys that was going to happen. I told you guys they're eventually going to be the favorite in that game, and I'm not surprised. I've been saying that since the spring. Sir Robinson is, and let's just be honest, he's better than Jackson Arnold. Not in terms of potential. I'm just saying in terms of, right now, if you were to pick, if you're an Auburn fan or a Baylor fan, who would you want, Sawyer Robinson or Jackson Arnold? I'm taking Sawyer Robinson. I'm no shame in saying that either. I could look like an idiot come December, but at the moment, I trust him over than I do Jackson Arnold. But again, the coaching staff underrated a little bit. I think Sawyer Robinson's really, really good. I mean, if you're Mississippi State, it's kind of like you lose Robinson, then you bring in the guy who was at Baylor before. I forget his name. Is it Blake Shapen, I believe? You go, whatever. But the coaching staff, I think it's solid. I think Dave Aranda, good defensive play caller. I think of Aranda in some ways is a bit of an interesting cautionary tale for a lot of these teams, and then you're going to see this less and less now with the emphasis on I got to make it to the playoffs or else you're fired. It's just giving guys chances, right? Same thing Mike Norvell at Florida State. Bring him up a lot lately. Maybe it's because he's up here. I mean, he might be listening to me. Same Mike Norvell at Florida State. You got to give these guys chances, right? If what happened at Baylor in 23, it was horrible, right? One of the worst outside of 2020. I mean, that's one of the worst seasons in Baylor football that we've witnessed. Definitely since Matt Rule's first year, but besides that, was after the whole Bryles scandal. Not since the Kevin Steele era that Baylor football was that bad in 23. Last year was a nice rebound. I think it's a lesson for a lot of these programs is, look, with the transfer put on the way the sport's organized right now, that's going to happen. You're going to have these teams. You're going to have, with Baylor, I think is a good example of this, and I think Florida State's another good example of this, where you can go from the highs and the top of the pyramid with going 12-2, and you go down to 6-7 and 3-9. It's and the errors trending down, but then it's 8-5, errors trending up again. It's like Josh Pate says all the time. Progress is not linear. Baylor's an example of that. Florida State is an example of that. Ole Miss is an example of that. Colorado, example of that. Under Dion. Progress is not linear. Auburn under Hugh Freeze, same thing. They could be an example of this, right? Talk about everyone wanting Hugh Freeze fired. Look, he could have a good year this year. It's not guaranteed. But I think of Baylor, again, it's an example of that. It's an example of giving these guys chances. And I think the administration there said, look, we went 3-9 this year and wasn't good. We're going to give you another chance to sort of rescue us a little bit. We'll give you another opportunity to, see what you're made out of, right? And I think Dave Aranda and those guys are not stupid. I think they're reasonably competent. And you saw what they did last year. They rebounded, and we'll see what happens this year, right? It's a very interesting time there for Baylor. Their schedule, by the way, it's not easy. I'll tell you that. It's quite tough, unfortunately. But you get Auburn. Your non-con's interesting. So you get Auburn to start the year on Friday. It's on Fox. Then you play SMU. And this was, back years ago, it was supposed to be a G5 game. Now it's another P4 game. It's an ACC team, too. That's just so weird that a team in Texas is in the ACC. Look, that's why in the college football video games last year in this year's game, after year one in Dynasty, I just switch all the conferences back. I can't fathom having SMU in the ACC. I'm sorry, but that's just weird. But anyway, you play them. It's sort of a pseudo rivalry. It's in state. I guess it's good for travel. It's like down the road, literally, down Interstate 35, I believe. So you have SMU. It's on the road. It's on the CW of all networks, which is really weird. But hey, that's college football, right? The sicko. That's definitely a sicko label again right there. SMU Baylor on the CW. Nothing like it. We'll try to watch that. It's 11 a.m. kick though. Interesting. Then you get FCS team. So yeah, the non-con, you get your one, I guess, free win, and then you have two games you can easily lose, right? I mean, you can lose Auburn, you can lose SMU too. Then it gets really in a hurry with Arizona State, Oklahoma State, and I'm not really concerned. But then it gets real in a hurry again, where it gets real again with Kansas State, TCU on the road. Cincinnati could be an interesting team this year. It's on the road. UCF, Utah. Those games aren't necessarily guarantees either. At Arizona, Houston. So it levels off towards the end. But man, that those 2 weeks early on, those 2 week intervals, if you will, or I guess 2 game. Well, I guess not really two. I mean, I guess it is 2 week intervals. Yeah, with Auburn, SMU, and then in October it's Kansas State, TCU, and there's a bye week in between. But the TCU Kansas State games, so those are tough. Those are very tough games. You can lose both of those games. I think Baylor will be a dog in about like 4-5-ish games, if you will, plus probably. Of course, they're favorite over Auburn. I think SMU, they're probably a favorite. So there's some games will be like, don't come mistaken, you'll probably be favorite in. Utah, you might be favored in. Arizona, you probably favored. Houston, same. But like Cincinnati, I could see you being a dog in that game. TCU, dog. Kansas State, dog. Arizona State, dog. So a bit of even split there, which is why, if you sort of boil this down. And by the way, the FanDuel number, not a sponsor of the show, just we use them for research purposes. Some will say the plural of that is perp by, but we don't do that here. FanDuel number there is 7.5, which is about right, I think. Best case scenario for Baylor, 10-2. Best case scenario. That's looking at the schedule and sort of doing the calculators and getting, doing the math. I think 10-2 is not impossible here. Based on my faith in Dave Aranda and this staff, I think it's a fairly competent staff. Sawyer Roberts being your quarterback, and he can stay healthy. That's good. If he doesn't, then you're in real trouble. Which you can't predict that, but 10-2 is the best case scenario here. I think that there's a real chance they could be one of the best teams in the Big 12. Could even win it. Everyone's talking about Texas Tech and Kansas State and Utah. I don't think I didn't see Bud Elliott's predictions there a couple weeks ago. I did see that, and it's certainly raising my eyebrows for me and a lot of others. But everyone's talking about Utah and Texas Tech and Kansas State. And look, I like Kansas State. I like Texas Tech. I like Arizona State and Kenny Dillingham. But Baylor, don't forget about them. Don't be surprised. If they end up in Dallas, everyone else will be like, "What's up with that?" But me, that wouldn't surprise me. But what also wouldn't surprise me, they go 5-7. That seems a bit. That does seem a little bit harsh. But again, there's a lot of these games, and they could lose some of these games. Like they could start 0-2, going to that Stanford game. Like they could lose to SMU, they could lose to Auburn, and they could also potentially be 1-3 going to Oklahoma State. So that's not impossible either. So there's some games early on here from up until the Cincinnati game. There's a stretch of games there. They could lose all those games. Like they could have only 2 wins going into Nippert Stadium there come a couple days before Halloween. So that's not out of the cards either. And again, injury stuff is also, if you lose Sawyer, then I think that's where this could really fall apart. Even though I like the staff there, I don't know if their depth there is really that great. Probably not, I'd imagine. So 5-7 there, unfortunately, that's the doomsday scenario. Now, the reasonable scenario here, if you were to average all this out, think about all of the ranges of possibilities here. I think the most reasonable scenario here, one that I think a lot of folks could agree on, I think is aim 4. Again, I know that's a little bit different than saying 10-2. It's not as sexy, if you will, as saying 10-2. But I think aim 4 is pretty good. About the same as last year, right? So if you're Dave Aranda, I think those guys would take aim 4. But man, if they go 10-2 and make it all the way to Dallas for Big 12 championship run, talk about a nice little rebound there. That's again, never give up on some of these coaches, man. Never give up. Again, Hugh Freeze being one of them, Dave Aranda, Mike Norvell. A lot of these coaches, a lot of folks throw away as trash, and they should be, sent to like the gulag or whatever. But I don't know about that. And look, I could be totally wrong here, and Aranda will get fired and whatnot. But I don't know, man. I think Aranda as a coach, I've never met him before either. I never had a chance to sit with him and talk to him. But from what I have seen, he's a good guy. He seems like he cares about, the craft of football. I think he deeply cares about having success there. I think he knows their situation at Baylor where, it is sort of, I'm not going to say it's necessarily a take the losses school, but they're definitely under-resourced. They have a lot of money, but not the best resource program. They're decently relevant, if you will, in football. But I think aim 4 here. If they do go aim 4, that's the reasonable scenario here. That'd be really good for them. I think that'd be a win in their book. Again, a reminder here to make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you're new here. And be sure to follow us on Spotify too. Again, we know a lot of folks are coming in with the season starting, whether it's NFL or college, and we don't talk a lot of NFL here, but we do towards the end of shows usually. But yeah, just make sure you subscribe to the channel. That's what the show's here for, right? Whether it's like that, Star Wars, Marvel news as well. We'll eventually go into that. That's what the show's for, right? We cover a lot of things on here. But around this time of the year, it's mostly dominated by football, that's for sure. Interesting topic here. So this next topic, I don't know why I just said that, but yeah. So teams that could quit. This is something that I think a lot of folks in the industry and folks who watch football a lot. It's the term that Bud Elliott uses a lot with quit watch, right? He uses it a lot with teams throughout the year, and last year, and again, Florida State reference again. That was a team that was on quit watch last year, and they quit. No doubt, they quit, and especially now with the portal and with this whole mercenary bounty hunter sort of mentality now. I mean, a lot of these guys who go to these schools, or especially if they're teams that are heavily late in the transfer portal, like a lot of these players who come in to get their cash and go on the NFL or whatever, like they're not bought into the school. I mean, some of these guys, like at Auburn, for example, Colorado's one of them, Ole Miss, for example, too. It's like they're not bought into the history of Auburn, Ole Miss, or the history of Georgia or Georgia Tech. They're not, and that's just the way the sport is right now. They can up and leave if they want to, or in cases of players who don't have any more eligibility, quit. Just be like, you know what, I'm getting paid, whatever, take the check, move on with my life. And unfortunately for some of these teams I'm at the list here, it's either that or just coaching situations, right? Coaches that have a lot of pressure on them. First one I just mentioned, Florida State, Mike Norvell. I think if I were to really, again, using this example again, if I were to bring Mike Norvell over from UNF's campus over to my apartment, send him here, get a lie detector test, and tell him, are you concerned about your team quitting? I'm sure if you were to give him some truth serum and put on a lie detector, I'm sure he'll probably say, yeah, I'm a little concerned based on the amount of transfers you had to bring in again. So there's a concern there. I'm sure there is. You won't say it publicly, but again, if I were to give him the truth serum and put him on a one-on-one interview, I'm sure he would be, it's a little concerned. So that's a team I could definitely see quit, right? I mean, you look at their schedule, right? They get destroyed by Bama and lose to Virginia on the road on a Friday night, I believe, or Thursday night. And those are not consecutive games. There is a G5 and FCS in between, but man, if they go 2-2 the first 4 weeks or first 4 games, I don't think that's like consecutive 4 games. I mean, there's a bye week in between, but man, you would. If they lose to Virginia on that Thursday or Friday night, and I know a lot of folks who don't follow Florida State or the ACC go, what's the big deal? You're not going to lose to Virginia, Florida State. They could. I mean, the time before, go back to 2019 under Willie Tiger. That was probably the game that got him fired. That or the Boise State game, but very similar to that team in 2019 a little bit. Very fragile. Again, a lot of transfer players coming in, a lot of big personalities. And look, if they lose to Virginia, they get destroyed by Bama, that team's going to quit. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but there's a really good chance they will quit. If they quit last year, this team could quit as well. I'm going to have it against Mike Norvell, but look, man, just let's be real here. I mean, you lost the team last year. You could lose the team this year. I know everyone's, raw and everything, and I can go to practice right now or go by campus and see the team, and everyone's happy in a good mood, which that's true. I did see a lot of good spirits from the players yesterday from what I saw, but still, I mean, you come fast forward all the way to, before Halloween, and it's, players are checking out, you hear rumors and stuff like that of players saying, fuck it, take the check, I'm going to go and, just coast the rest of the year. That could happen. That could certainly happen for Florida State. So they're on here. Virginia Tech's on here as well. I don't have a lot of joy in saying that. I think Virginia Tech, in terms of a historical program and, the traditions, the Metallica blaring, Enter Sandman before the game starts and whatnot, it's a place that I've always wanted to go visit for a game. The history of Michael Vick and, Coach Beamer. They're just not a good team right now. I have said this before, and I'll say it again. I'm very concerned about that staff up there. Look, I don't hate Brent Pry. I think he's a good coach. He's a good man. I think he generally cares about, again, the craft of football. I think he generally wants his team to be good. But I still have concerns, and I had these concerns back even before we did this show. I was not over the moon about the hire of him. I thought that was a very sloppy hire, kind of if you want to use an Auburn example, like a very Brian Harsin-esque hire. I don't know, man. I'm very worried about them. They start, by the way, I have to double check this. We'll eventually do their breakdown. I think we'll probably do it next week. I'm pretty sure. Did they start? Because I know they start out with South Carolina. Did they play Vanderbilt again? I think they do. Yeah, they start out with Vanderbilt and South Carolina. They could lose. They could 0-2. I mean, that's not out of the realm of impossibility. And look, at that happens, and you're really going to run into a situation where they could easily quit. They could already be on quit watch already. And it's not even week 3. It's not even like the month of Halloween. Or I haven't having the Halloween commercials start airing yet on TV. And so yeah, they have South Carolina neutral site, and Lance, I knew that. That's on Monday or Sunday. I think it's on Sunday. Yeah, it's on Sunday. Interesting time there, 3:00. Interesting, but to have that, then they play Vanderbilt. And they beat you last year. That's a revenge game too. So I mean, there's I guess the other side of that is look, they could very easily win that game, right? It's a revenge game for them, but I don't know that. They lost out players, and you see all. If you're a Virginia Tech fan or you're a ACC aficionado, all the players that left there. The depth is terrible. I mean, they have Kyron Jones, who's a good runner, and look, he's a good athlete and whatnot, and I think he's an okay quarterback, but he's not that good. He's kind of okay, but not really okay. So I don't feel good about them beating Vanderbilt either. So they can start 0-2, and that happens again. I think at that point you're probably guaranteeing Brent Pryce probably out before Halloween probably. So you have, look, they could easily start 0-3 going to their game against the FCS team. Old Dominion, which is I don't know why they play them all the time. It's like a weird or like fabricated rivalry, but whatever. I guess gotta play someone close by, right, to keep the travel budget down and whatnot. But you can lose Old Dominion. Time before happened a couple years ago. Happened under Justin Fuente as well. So they could easily start 0-3. Could easily start like 1-4 and stay on the road. And what if you lose that game? What if you lose to Wake Forest? You lose Georgia Tech probably. What if you lose to Cal? So as you can tell by the tone of my voice, this can get off the rails really quickly. And again, it's so fascinating how from last year, like me and Josh Payton, others were like pegging Virginia Tech as this like, oh, shh, don't say it out loud, but it could be really good. But then last year happens. And who knows? Look, the other side of this, look, you could have been a year ahead on them. Maybe this is the year they actually get it together and they surprise everyone. But that's a team I could easily see quit. Auburn is number 1. Hugh Freeze, kind of the same thing of Brent Pry. It's a lot of uneasiness, a lot of nervousness, better talent, right? I think Jackson Arnold probably better than Kyron Jones. Maybe not in terms of athletic ability, but in terms of overall quarterback play, he's definitely better. They have better talent, have good receivers. But again, much like Florida State a little bit, look, if Auburn's season goes south, does Cam Coleman say, you know what, I could go somewhere else and have a lot better career, take the check, quit, go into the portal. So, I don't know. If they were to like get destroyed by Baylor and like lose to like Oklahoma and Texas A&M, I think the writing is at that point on the wall that you're probably gonna have a coaching change there and have a total overhaul, probably that entire program in terms of the football side of things. So Auburn's definitely on that list of teams that can quit. Stanford, don't talk a lot about Stanford. Probably haven't talked about them probably since the firing of Troy Taylor, but that interim coach Frank Reich, like I don't think he really cares about college football. I think he's just there just to be the head coach there. Stanford definitely going to be the worst P4 team in the country. They could very easily go 0-12, and I think I listened to this yesterday from Cover 3 when they're doing their ACC 1 totals. I think Bud Elliott brought this up. Like Stanford's going to be a dog in every single game this year. I think they play at Hawaii for some reason, which, okay, whatever. I think they play San Jose. Let me look at their schedule here because I'm fascinated to see what they're who they're playing. Again, I trust Bud. I don't know for sure if they're actually not favored in every single game, but I'm like knowing Bud and not knowing him personally, but knowing him from watching him in that show, Cover 3, their show, I can definitely believe that they're probably going to go over in all their games. Yeah, so they have at Hawaii. They're probably going to lose that game because of the travel dynamics. I know everyone says, oh, the travel dynamics, that's not a big deal anymore. It is a big deal. Trust me. Hey, look, the NFL it's not, but college football it is. If anyone who says otherwise, you're just wrong. And there's a dynamic there. They also start, I just realized this, they have at Utah, they go to Utah after going to Hawaii. They play BYU. Why? Why? I don't know what the incentive is, but okay, all right. So they could, that's 0-2 there. Boston College, you're probably going to lose to them. Virginia on the road, probably lose to them. So there you go, 0-4. You have your rivalry game with San Jose State in the Bill Walsh game. I think you're going to win that game, but again, it's not a guarantee either. I think wouldn't be surprised if San Jose State's actually favored over the other side, but they probably are. SMU lost. Florida State, God forbid, Florida State loses to Stanford. Oh, ugh. That's probably a loss. Miami lost. Pittsburgh lost. North Carolina, Notre Dame, California. Yeah. Look, Stanford could easily go 1-11 or 0-12. I mean, that's a horrific team. So, not to mention what happened. And look, you can say everything about Troy Taylor and the off the field stuff. And look, I don't. This is ringing about firing him because of that. Look, that's atrocious. But in terms of him being the coach, Troy Taylor, the football coach, or removing the legal stuff out of the way, he's a decent coach. He was doing well in recruiting. Had a competent, at least, offense, and they beat Louisville last year. And I have Frank Reich, who's kind of like, take the paycheck, whatever. I'm doing it for Andrew and whatnot. Andrew, look, is the general manager there now, if you didn't know. It's like, take the check, trying to get back to the NFL. Who cares? They just want to coach football, but he doesn't care. Or at least I don't think he does. I don't think he cares. So because of that and the whole dynamics here and the fact that they play freaking Hawaii and BYU on the road, and the first home game is like in the middle of September, like by the time they get after Halloween, like they're gonna be winless probably. I don't think they're gonna beat San Jose State. I don't think they could, but I wouldn't put money on it. I'll put money on San Jose State. Probably would put money on them, but yeah, that's a team that could easily quit really early, probably after week 1 if they haven't quit already. Wisconsin, same thing. Last team here, and they could easily quit. I mean, their schedule. Bring it up here. Is they play Bama, and then the rest of their Big Ten schedule is just excuse me, atrocious. I mean, it's gonna be tough. And then look, and they're not expecting to win that Bama game, and look, I'm not either. And look, if they get blown out, so be it. But it's even just removing the fact that look, they'll probably they'll start 2-0, then they beat Miami of Ohio, I think. But even that, with Chuck Martin being the coach there, I mean, he's a really good coach. I mean, Miami of Ohio is one of the better G5 teams, at least in terms of coaching staffs and whatnot. So it's not a guarantee, but you should be able to start at 2-0. But you could very easily start 1-1, and losing to Miami of Ohio would be, at least perceptionally, would be atrocious. I think you beat your other G5 team. Then it's, oh boy, at Bama, Maryland can beat you, right? I think Michigan, certainly, Iowa for sure, Oregon, Ohio State definitely. That's a stretch. Washington, 10 that stretch, and then it's still not really that easy, right? Yeah, at Indiana, Illinois, Minnesota, like Wisconsin. I haven't done their preview yet, but their worst case scenario could very easily be 0-12. Like that is not off the cards. I have no joy in saying that, but yeah, much like Stanford, that's another team too that can really quit early. Some of these other teams like Florida State, I guess it'll be the Virginia game. I guess Virginia Tech number 1 too. They could quit early, but yeah, those are generally some teams there. Again, Florida State, Virginia, Auburn. Virginia Tech, Auburn, Stanford, Wisconsin. Those are, I could even add more teams on there. Colorado could be one of them, like could quit early. But those 4 or 5 teams there, teams I could definitely see quit, and most of those quit early, unfortunately. So I guess it's in their best interest. I mean, I guess Stanford notwithstanding, to have some success early and hope and pray you don't miss out on the bowl game for most of those teams, I guess. We get some water here. The voice kind of starting to go a little bit. We haven't gone this long in terms of a show in a while. We're going to definitely go over an hour because we're not done yet. We still have a lot more things to talk about. I got some Bucs stuff, Buccaneers stuff, and we'll go into the Q&A. A couple of questions. Pull up something real quick and get some water, so we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. And again, as we are kind of in the middle, kind of deeper in the show here again, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the streams, like the videos when we do them, and also be sure to follow us on the Spotify podcast feed, and also follow us on X, Twitter, as well. Buccaneers Camp Intel, of course, we're beyond to that point in August, where the preseason games are starting. So if you guys you don't know what preseason team or when the preseason games are for Tampa. I think all these are not on Sundays. So most of these are Saturday games. So we have the 9th, 16th of August, and the 23rd. And the opponents, if you've forgotten, it's Tennessee. They come to Tampa. That's this weekend. They go to Pittsburgh the following weekend, and they have Buffalo, that's kind of a rare situation where they are playing a team that they're actually playing in the regular season. So that'll be interesting. There's a little bit of an interesting preview there for Tampa. I didn't realize that, but yeah, they play at Buffalo in November. Where Buffalo comes to Tampa. So for preseason, that's pretty cool. Kind of rare to see that happen, or just work out like that. But so yeah, I mean we'll eventually go over their first preseason game. I'll talk about on the show Tuesday, I guess. Excuse me, there got something on my nose, a piece of dust. But yeah, I mean once that kind of settles down, we'll kind of go over it, some initial thoughts and whatnot. But I guess the biggest thing that's going to come out of practice is Teddy Bridgewater, the some folks call him the model backpack quarterback, which means he's a quarterback that has a tendency to kind of move around the league a lot. He is on Tampa's roster. He is back in the NFL. I think he was at his high school recruiting, his high school coaching career kind of got cut short out of there. I haven't really following it too much, but some weird controversy going on there. But whatever, he's on the team now. What I think of it, it's not too surprising. I think Tampa was probably going to want to sign a veteran guy to sort of be an emergency quarterback. And look, you still have Kyle Trask. Look, I'm still somewhat high on. I think he is a interesting option. If they didn't sign Teddy, I think he would have been fine. We've seen him come in, of course, a couple years ago. I think it was the Colts game and Baker's first year when he got banged up a little bit. He came in and didn't really look that good, but I'm watching Trask in college. I was hiring on him than anyone in the draft. When we drafted, I thought it was a good, decent pickup. I thought it was, maybe we can have him develop, behind Tom. Neil's still there and sort of eventually take over. Hasn't happened, so I guess that's probably not going to happen. But having Bridgewater be coming in, look, man, I get it. He's the poster child for, it fits into that category of like the Sam Darnolds of the world and, the Ryan Fitzpatricks of the world who they just move around a lot. Nothing wrong with that. But, he's there. And if something were to happen to Baker, I think the staff obviously feels comfortable enough to have Bridgewater be your emergency QB if you need him to come in. Am I, happy about it? Am I mad about it? Kind of in the middle. It's whatever. I guess it's a good depth piece. But yeah, with the preseason game on Saturday, we'll certainly get to see Teddy a lot more. I'm sure we'll see Kyle Trask and all the younger players and players who won't be on the roster come before week one. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what that looks like on Saturday. I guess that's one of the things I'm looking at is QB depth. If something were to go wrong with Baker, who would be your who would you feel comfortable trotting out there, right? And I that's what I'm looking for, right? Just to see who the backup QB, how's it look like. Does Bridgewater go out there and looks decent enough, then that's probably good enough for me. I think you definitely have your established backup there. But yeah, that happened this week. Interesting to see what happens with that in the preseason games. Of course, again, we'll touch on that on the Tuesday show. My thoughts on that entirely, and we're just gonna go from there. Q&A time. Got a couple questions here. We'll wrap up the show. First one: thoughts on the NFL Red Zone style show coming to college football. This is something that Roger Gale, if you didn't know, that NFL Red Zone and NFL Network is now part of ESPN. So there's that. But where this comes into college football is like Goodell, the commissioner in the NFL. If you didn't know, if you don't follow the sport. He brought this up casually a little bit. That I don't know the exact quote, I don't remember it, but it's just some of the lines of, hey, with the NFL Red Zone coming to ESPN, it's possible we could have something coming to college football, which is interesting, right? What I feel about this, it's been interesting, right? And of course, everyone with NFL Red Zone, if you ever watched it before, I've had before in the past. It's hosted by Scott Hansen, who's to go, by the way, great, one of the greater media personalities out there. Like he's up there with like Ernie Johnson, all of them. Really good what he does. Scott's very great in what he does, and he'll be, starting up again here pretty soon. First Sunday of the season's about a month from now. But what I think about this for college football, I like it, but The problem is here, and I think this is where, unfortunately, the issue would come in. While I like the idea of it on paper, once you start getting into the weeds a little bit, this is something that folks on Twitter were pointing out, and rightfully so. The sense, if the NFL were to do like a spinoff of it, of like a college football, only red zone thing, which was it was a thing. It was called ESPN Goal Line, but they kind of got rid of it. So if you were to bring that back, what would it be exactly? Would it be like NFL Red Zone, where it just doesn't matter what network it is, whether it's Fox or CBS, just show all the games, right? But for college football, it's a little bit different, right? College football, you have conference alignment with networks, right? So CBS only does one Big Ten game. I guess maybe they'll do two sometimes, but you have Fox and CBS, NBC with the Big Ten, ESPN, ABC with the other conferences mostly, and then Fox will also do some Big 12 games or whatnot. I guess the feeling is that if ESPN were to do this, because then they own, the idea to do this next, they own the NFL Network and Red Zone, then it would probably be only SEC, Big 12, and ACC home games or interconference games. That's it. So it won't necessarily be a Red Zone. It'll just be, essentially just be a better version, I guess, of ESPN Goal Line, I guess. So, look, again, would I like the idea of it coming back? Yeah. Do I think the execution of it would be what I prefer? No. I would definitely much prefer maybe an independent partner gets involved, and maybe they do it. Hint, hint, and wink, wink. I know there's a lot of folks sort of doing that, particularly with a three-letter network that is independent. If you know, you know. But for the most part, if it is ESPN doing it, if it's another independent, college football network, we'll see. But would I like the idea of a red zone, NFL red zone style sort of format coming to college football? Yeah, I wouldn't mind it, but I would like it done properly, not being at ESPN and ESPN and Disney propaganda machine. Would not really enjoy that. Last question here. This is something I definitely don't like. Why do I hate neutral site games? Well, for a number of reasons. One, I firmly believe that college football games should be, especially regular season games, should be played on college campuses. So, for example, we have Farmageddon, Iowa, Kansas State, Iowa State, Kansas State, is happening week 0. In general, that sounds great. It's a big game, big Big 12 game, a lot of implications there in terms of like conference stands and whatnot. And big rivalry game. That sounds great on paper, right? It's where it's being played. Is it playing in Ames, Iowa? Is it playing in Manhattan, Kansas? No, it's not. Okay, so where's it being played at? Is it being played in the U.S. at least? No. It's being played in Dublin, Ireland. Dublin, Ireland. Again, I'm just repeating, make sure you guys understand that. Look, nothing against Ireland. Look, I'm a big fan of Guinness, the beer over there. It's a good beer. I know a lot of folks, who I know, I'm not a fan of it, but I do. I like it. Look, Ireland's great. Yeah, Guinness and whatnot. That's great. I do not want college football games being played over there. I'm sick and tired of it. Yes, the atmosphere there cool. Is it feel like St. Patrick's Day there on before the week of the game? Yeah, it does, and that's cool. But I don't know. I prefer college football games to play on the college campuses. That's why if you follow me on X, Twitter, that's why you see me saying that a lot. I do not want games played on neutral sites. I want them to be played on, college campuses. And unfortunately, which happened, I don't know why I've been pushing this off, but and of course it got announced a couple weeks ago that Western Michigan and Michigan that game is not being played in Ann Arbor. It is being played in Munich, Germany. Munich, Germany. Not in I don't know where Western Michigan is, in Kalamazoo, I believe. I think that's where it is, but it's not being played at Western Michigan. Which teams in the net before? I believe was it Michigan State the net to that? Was either Eastern or Central or one of the two. One of those three G5 MAC Michigan schools, but no, it's being played in Munich, Germany. That's so stupid, and it's just like, why? There's nothing wrong with the Big House. There's nothing wrong with Western Michigan Stadium. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. Is the Big House being destroyed or something is being rebuilt? Like, unless that's happening, then if it's for stadium issues, then that's understandable. I mean, maybe you want to, but still, I do not want college football regular season games played at neutral sites. Same thing with this Georgia Tech Georgia thing. It's like that thing on Twitter the other day from the folks in the Mercedes-Benz, and look, Mercedes-Benz Stadium Look, school never been there before, though I have been to Georgia now. Man, rest in peace, she may. Um, it's like they can't even get the name of the game right. They're changing the name. It's like the All State like Invesco QQQ Classic. No, it's clean old fashioned hate. That's the name of the game. Quit changing it and making it corporatized bullshit. Like again, college football games should be played on college football campuses. It's not that hard to get that right. That's why I love that Auburn's playing at Baylor. That's why I love that Bama is coming to Florida State. That's why I love that Clemson is hosting LSU. That's why I hate that you have Tennessee playing Syracuse in Atlanta week 1. That's why I just totally dislike the fact that we're getting Farmageddon being played all the way in Dublin, Ireland. Again, look, I'm wrong in Ireland again. I've always wanted to go over there and look. If you didn't watch, by the way, McAfee's show, I'm sure he's doing this again from the Irish pub there, and he was chugging 30 pints of Guinness or whatever, I think, and look, that'd be incredible to go over there and experience that. But it's just I don't know, man. It's just keep the games on campus. It's not that hard. Again, I get it. It's you got to go to the NFL and get the most money out of it. And look, I totally understand. Everything we do in this country is for the dollar, but not everything that you do that you think is improvement is a good thing. Like taking games, like taking Farmageddon away from Manhattan, Kansas, or Ames, Iowa, and shipping it over to freaking Dublin, Ireland. It's no. Do you seriously think that folks who live in Iowa or live in Kansas have enough money, or at least have any interest going over to Dublin, Iowa, and watch a football game? No, I don't think they're going to. Now, I'm sure a lot of the locals over there in Iowa, and I'm sure a lot of the people who have a lot of money. But again, I'm not trying to make this a whole financial thing. But still, it is an issue. It is an issue. I don't think a lot of folks, the average person, has enough money, let alone even has their passport renewed, has all those available to them to hop on a plane and go to Dublin, Ireland. I don't think a lot of folks would really want to do that. I think folks would much rather go to Dublin, Ireland just to go visit Dublin, Ireland, and go drink Irish stout and and Guinness and go explore the Titanic Museum or whatever. I don't know. It just really does amazes me. That the Munich game of Michigan and Western Michigan, this Georgia Tech Georgia thing taking place in at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's the things I hate about college football that really bother me. Look, I still have the sport. We'll still cover it, but man, just things like that really bother me, and it just does not make any sense. Why we have to have neutral site games? Again, then next year, I think, what is it, that TCU, North Carolina, the return trip. So instead of going to AMG Carter Stadium in Fort Worth on TCU's campus, I'm pretty sure that game is also going to be played in Dublin, Ireland too. It's what? Look, if you're a TCU fan, if you were folks over there in Fort Worth, if you were, banking on having, a home game against North Carolina, Bill Belichick potentially coming to your stadium the first time ever, and having all these plans and whatnot, and all of a sudden it's, let's change the plans, guys. Sorry, we're going to Dublin, Ireland to play this game. What? If they're coming over to AMG Carter? Nope. Sorry, they can't. Well, why? Why did I come over? Because of money. Money. It just pisses me off sometimes, and I just again, I get it that the NFL does it, and I think it is the classic sheep thing. It's the NFL does it. Got to do that too. And look, you're saying the NFL does better. I think college football does worse, right? The schedule, how the year goes around the calendar, and the NFL is a lot better. The way they have their the TV partners, the rules are a little more relaxed a little bit for the playoffs. It's you can have CBS and NBC and Fox and soon ABC and ESPN doing the Super Bowl. I like that. I like the variety. I also like the playoff structure. There's an actual structure, and it's not, unlike Florida State a couple years ago. Just because your starting quarterback gets injured doesn't mean, you can. For example, the Eagles years ago when they lost Carson Wentz and Nick Foles had to start. I guarantee you, if that was in college football terms in the playoff, the Eagles would be left out of the college football playoff. No doubt. I have no doubt. And that's why I like the NFL. There's more of a structure, and just because you lose a starting player doesn't mean you're out of the playoffs. They're still in. It's the rules are the rules. And but man, just things like copying the NFL and having these stupid games, and there's also talks of having a game in Australia again. It's just That's like half crosses that's crossing the international date line. It's like, it just frustrates me. So, yeah, things like that really do piss me off. And one of the things I do hate that has been influenced on college football from the NFL is these international games. Look, the international games for NFL, whatever, it's fine. It doesn't bother me as much. I guess from the fan perspective, like a couple years ago when Tampa went to Germany, played to Germany to play the Seahawks in Tom's final year. I mean, yeah, it was cool to see it. It's just like, I have to get up at, have to get ready to watch your team play at 9 a.m. in the morning. Can't wait. But yeah, that's thoughts on that. And yeah, look, I'm sorry, I just hate these neutral site games in the regular season. Now for conference championships and the playoff and whatnot, whatever, fine. But in the regular season, no. Games should be played on college campuses in the regular season. Period. End of story. There's exceptions to the rule that makes sense. Like Oklahoma, Texas at the State Fair, that's fine. Florida coming to Jacksonville. I mean, that's not my. And look, my dream for this little UGA UF thing, because if you guys don't know, the Jags will not be playing here in Jacksonville next year. They'll be playing in Orlando because the stadium's really being destroyed. The original idea was, at least the hope was, that UF and UGA would be a home and home thing like they did back in the 90s, I believe. And that was the hope, right? Able to get that just for 2 years only. That's all we were asking for. It's not saying that the game's moving away from Jacksonville. No, it's only for those 2 years, but they can't even do that. It's going to be like UF and Georgia is going to be played in Tampa next year, and then I believe in Atlanta the year after. And it could have been a home and away. It's like, and it's not even. I know the argument being thrown against it. It's like, oh, you're taking away the game from Jacksonville. The city would ever allow that. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying when the stadium's, the new Shaq Stadium's built, they can bring the big game back. I don't care. But for the next 2 years, have the game on campus. Like, who wouldn't want to see Georgia come to the Swamp, or vice versa, Florida going to Sanford Stadium? For 2 years, it's 2 years. You can bring it back to Jacksonville. I don't care. But they can't even do that. And I know why. It's because of the money. And it's like, oh, God forbid, campus games. Oh, even if it means, it's only for 2 years. And it comes out to Jacksonville. It's not. I know their argument, too. It's like, oh, the city wouldn't allow it. The games ain't even play there. You're not like what? You're not earning the money. The Tampa's earning the money. Atlanta's earning the money. It's not even benefiting you. It doesn't matter. Like if the game's been played in Sanford Stadium or Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, who cares? Who cares how the city of Jacksonville feels about that? Who cares they won't allow it? Does that impact you negatively or positively? The game's coming back in 2 years, so who cares? But anyway, this show could be an hour, two more hours long, and but yeah, just that bothers me a lot, and I really hope in the future that we see less and less of this and more emphasis on home campuses. And I don't even care if it even takes having a new commissioner in football, but still, it's stupid. And unfortunately, it's not going to change. I get it because of the money, and I gotta respect the dollar and whatnot, but whatever. It just pisses me off. It really does. So, ending the show on a sour note, but yeah, we'll be back on Tuesday. Of course, I'll be keeping on the tropics for you guys, and who knows, maybe by next Tuesday we'll have a area of interest in the Eastern Atlantic, and I think we will. And I'll, of course, update you guys on Twitter throughout the weekend. So until Tuesday, take care, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you on the next stream.